Look at me. Look at what your greed has done to me.
Charles's past returned to him in a terrifying flash. He awoke with a scream, his body drenched in sweat, the image of Aya's accusing eyes from his dream seared into his mind. Her ghostly form had pointed a finger at him, blaming him for her illness and tragic death. As the phantom pain of the dream receded, he began his narration, reflecting on the promise that haunted him more than any nightmare. He recalled the faded memory of his mother on her deathbed, her voice a frail whisper as she clasped his hand, "Promise me, son, you will always care for your sister. She is my heart, my treasure." Revealing his deep love for his sister and how her well-being became his primary motivation for seeking wealth. He describes the heavy weight of this promise and his initial struggles to make ends meet. Charles recounts how Jaff, his ambitious friend, first heard whispers of immense wealth to be gained in Benin through powerful spiritual means. They gather their meager savings, fueled by desperation and the allure of untold riches, beginning to plot their journey. Before their journey, Charles and Jaff visit Jaff's Uncle Ben in a nearby village to seek a blessing, but Uncle Ben, sensing their dark intentions, warns them against shortcuts to wealth and the dangers of spiritual interference, though his warnings fall on deaf ears. They face their first dilemma: heed the wise counsel or pursue their reckless ambition. Uncle Ben, reluctantly helping them to ensure their safety, connects them with a contact in Benin, Adama, who can assist with language and currency exchange. Charles and Jaff embark on the long, difficult, and tiring road journey to Benin, facing their first physical challenges and the discomforts of the harsh travel. Charles and Jaff arrive in Porto Novo, a vibrant but overwhelming city, where Adama, their Benin contact, greets them. They are immediately faced with the culture shock and the complexities of navigating a foreign land, including changing their currency. Adama proves invaluable, translating the local language and helping them navigate the city's complexities, but Charles senses an unsettling aura about him, a subtle hint of his true nature that raises a small seed of suspicion. They encounter their first minor problem: miscommunications and navigating unfamiliar customs. Adama leads them on an even more arduous journey from the city into a remote, isolated village where Baba resides. The landscape grows wilder, the air heavier with unspoken traditions, and a sense of growing unease settles over them.
Charles and Jaff finally meet Baba, the ancient spiritualist, whose piercing eyes seem to see through their very souls. Baba, speaking in proverbs and riddles, subtly intimidates them while promising unimaginable wealth, presenting a moral dilemma of trusting a powerful unknown. Baba begins to explain the money ritual, carefully omitting the true nature of the sacrifice involved. He describes the need for a deep, personal connection to the ritual's efficacy, slowly drawing them deeper into his web. Baba instructs them to spend a day in preparation, meditating and fasting, and describes the location of the sacred grove where the ritual will take place. They face a new challenge of mental and physical endurance, pushing their limits. During their preparation, Charles experiences unsettling dreams and hears strange whispers in the night, a subtle warning from ancestral spirits, but he dismisses them as nerves. He struggles with internal fear and doubt. Baba sends them on a quest within the village to gather specific ritualistic items, seemingly innocuous but each imbued with symbolic meaning. They encounter various villagers, some wary, some helpful, adding layers to the mystery of the community. The evening before the ritual, Baba lights a ceremonial fire, its flames dancing with an unsettling intensity. He speaks of sacrifices and commitments, further hinting at the true cost, making Charles increasingly apprehensive. Under the pre-dawn sky, Baba, Charles, Jaff, and Adama trek deep into the bush, the journey itself a test of endurance and nerve. The forest seems to watch them, its sounds amplified and eerie. They arrive at a hidden clearing within the sacred grove, where an ancient, crude altar is set up, emanating a powerful and foreboding aura. The gravity of the situation begins to fully sink in for Charles. Baba presents two ordinary-looking eggs, explaining their significance as vessels of life and connection, but still not revealing whose lives they represent. The mystery deepens, making them question the true nature of the ritual.
Baba begins a rhythmic, guttural chant, his voice echoing through the silent grove, creating an unnerving atmosphere that grips Charles and Jaff with a mixture of fear and fascination. The spiritual energy in the air intensifies. Under Baba's direction, Charles and Jaff are instructed to bury an egg each, a seemingly simple act, but the way Baba emphasizes burying it deep, with intention, adds to the sense of dread. They are forced to perform the action despite their growing fear. As Charles buries his egg, he experiences a fleeting, chilling vision of Aya's face, distorted in pain, which he immediately tries to suppress, dismissing it as a figment of his imagination. He battles internal conflict and denial. During the ritual, Charles feels an unseen presence swirling around them, a chilling cold that raises the hairs on his arms. He looks to Jaff, but his friend appears oblivious, lost in the moment. Baba makes them swear an oath of absolute silence about the ritual, warning them of dire consequences if they ever speak of it. This creates a new problem, the burden of a terrifying secret. Despite their lingering fears, a wave of immense relief washes over Charles and Jaff as the ritual concludes. They believe they have successfully conquered poverty and are now on the path to riches, feeling a false sense of triumph. The return journey to the city feels lighter, despite the physical exhaustion, as Charles and Jaff are filled with a sense of anticipation and a misguided feeling of invincibility. They believe their problems are over. Back in the city, Charles and Jaff immediately immerse themselves in their internet fraud schemes. Within days, small amounts of money begin to trickle in, fueling their excitement and confirming their belief in the ritual's power.
The trickle turns into a flood. Large sums of money begin pouring into their accounts, far exceeding their wildest dreams. They are overwhelmed by the sudden influx of wealth, leading to reckless spending. Charles and Jaff begin to live extravagantly, buying luxurious houses, high-end cars, and spending lavishly on parties and women. They revel in their newfound status, attracting attention and admiration. Charles, remembering his initial purpose, showers Aya with expensive gifts, designer clothes, and even a new car. He believes he is fulfilling his promise, unknowingly fueling the impending tragedy. Jaff, too, dotes on his mother, buying her a comfortable house and ensuring she lives a life of ease. Mama Jaff, unaware of the source, is grateful but troubled by Jaff's sudden transformation. Aya, despite the material comforts, begins to exhibit strange, unexplained symptoms, a persistent cough, unusual fatigue, and a growing paleness. Charles dismisses it as a minor ailment, a new problem surfacing. Concurrently, Mama Jaff also starts experiencing similar, unsettling symptoms, though Jaff attributes it to old age. A parallel decline begins, hinting at a shared, darker cause.
Aya's condition worsens rapidly, baffling doctors who cannot diagnose her illness. Charles's initial dismissal turns into a gnawing concern, forcing him to face the reality of a problem he cannot buy his way out of.
Charles spends vast sums of money on the best doctors and hospitals for Aya, but nothing helps. He is confronted with the limits of his material wealth, realizing some problems cannot be solved with money.
Mama Jaff's health deteriorates sharply, and Jaff, too, is spending heavily on her medical care. A local spiritual healer, observing her decline, subtly hints at a spiritual root, but Jaff dismisses it.
Charles experiences vivid nightmares of the sacred grove and a shadowy figure beckoning him. He wakes up in a cold sweat, feeling a presence in his room, a new spiritual challenge. Aya succumbs to her mysterious illness, leaving Charles devastated and racked with guilt. Her death is a crushing blow, reminding him of his broken promise and the futility of his wealth.
Charles's mother's words echo in his mind, the sweetness of stolen honey turns to bitter bile in the belly. Quick wealth is like a mirage in the desert, intensifying his grief and remorse. He is haunted by the thought that he failed his most sacred duty, leading to a profound internal struggle. Shortly after Aya, Mama Jaff also passes away, leaving Jaff distraught. The parallel deaths strengthen the ominous link between their newfound wealth and the tragedies.
Despite their grief, neither Charles nor Jaff connects the deaths to the Benin ritual, trapped in their denial and the belief that the money was a blessing. They grapple with the inexplicable, a problem they refuse to acknowledge. As their loved ones die, their businesses begin to crumble. Deals fall through, money disappears, and their lavish lifestyles become unsustainable. They are faced with the harsh reality of their diminishing wealth. Charles and Jaff find their bank accounts rapidly depleting, despite no logical explanation. The problem of their dwindling fortune becomes undeniable, forcing them to confront their changed circumstances.
Charles is tormented by vivid memories of the egg ritual and Aya's final moments, the two images beginning to intertwine in his mind, sparking a terrifying realization. He faces his internal demons.
Jaff, now consumed by fear and desperation, tries to salvage their dwindling wealth through increasingly risky and illegal schemes, but all efforts fail. He faces a new problem of escalating desperation.
In a vivid dream, Aya's spirit appears to Charles, her voice weak but clear, revealing the truth about the egg ritual and the sacrifice of their lives. This is the major revelation, the turning point. Charles awakens in a cold sweat, the truth hitting him like a physical blow. He inadvertently sacrificed Aya's life for wealth. The crushing weight of this realization is his biggest challenge. Charles, armed with the horrifying truth, confronts Jaff, who initially denies it but is eventually forced to acknowledge the possibility. Their friendship is fractured by betrayal and guilt. Both Charles and Jaff begin experiencing severe physical and psychological ailments, a direct consequence of the broken spiritual contract. Their bodies and minds betray them, a supernatural punishment. Through a shared, tormenting vision, Charles and Jaff realize that the second egg represented Mama Jaff's life, confirming the extent of Baba's deception. The true horror of their actions fully reveals itself. They realize they are bound by a dark pact, their lives inextricably linked to the ritual and its consequences. They are trapped in a spiritual prison, their biggest problem yet. Charles and Jaff, now completely destitute and gravely ill, make a desperate decision to return to Benin and confront Baba, their final, most perilous journey. They are fighting for their very existence. Their journey back to Benin is arduous and filled with hardship, a stark contrast to their first trip. They endure hunger, sickness, and the shame of their past actions, a journey of penance. Upon reaching Baba's village, they find it subtly changed, colder and more unwelcoming, reflecting the spiritual imbalance they created. They feel like outcasts, facing the consequences of their actions on others. Baba receives them with a chilling calmness, feigning surprise at their condition, further highlighting his manipulative nature. He presents a new problem of psychological manipulation. Charles, despite his weakened state, bravely confronts Baba, demanding to know how to reverse the ritual and redeem themselves. He shows courage in the face of immense fear. Baba reveals the full extent of his power and the unbreakable nature of the Dark Pact, gloating over their suffering. He reminds them of their blindness and greed, revealing the depth of their spiritual entrapment. Baba offers a twisted path to partial redemption, a series of impossible tasks and spiritual tests, implying that only through immense suffering can they hope for a sliver of peace. They are faced with a seemingly insurmountable challenge. Jaff, weaker than Charles, begins to succumb to his illness during one of Baba's tests, his life slowly draining away. His decline forces Charles to confront the impending loss of his last remaining connection. As Jaff takes his last breath, he looks at Charles with a silent plea for forgiveness and a final, heartbreaking realization of their folly. His death leaves Charles utterly alone, a profound consequence of their actions. Charles, completely broken but spiritually awakened, buries Jaff. He accepts his fate, understanding that true wealth was never about money but about integrity and the lives he carelessly sacrificed. He realizes the final problem is internal acceptance and transformation. Charles, now a shell of his former self, returns home and dedicates his remaining days to sharing his cautionary tale. The faint glow of his phone illuminated the small, sparsely furnished room, his face etched with the harsh realities of a life lived too fast and paid for dearly, held the device steady. His cracked lip, a permanent reminder of a brawl he barely remembered from his opulent past, twitched slightly as he began to speak into the TikTok live. "Good evening, everyone," his voice, once booming with youthful arrogance, was now a low, gravelly murmur. "Some of you might know me, some might not. My name is Charles, formerly called Charles the OG. He paused, his gaze drifting to the peeling paint on the wall. I used to live a very different life. A life of excess, of fast cars and fleeting pleasures. On the screens of the youth watching, comments began to flood in. Recognition flickered across some faces, curiosity in others. They were a generation grappling with their own dreams and the seductive allure of quick wealth, and Charles, a ghost from that very world, held a strange fascination. He spoke of cities' glittering nightlife, the champagne wishes and caviar dreams that had once defined his existence. He recounted the thrill of the expensive cars, the fleeting company of women who were drawn to his burgeoning wealth. But there was no pride in his voice, only a deep, resonant sadness. We thought we were untouchable, he confessed, his eyes clouding with memory. Jeffrey and I, we were young, foolish, and we believed the money would never run out. We threw it around like it was water, never thinking about where it truly came from. He avoided the specifics of his source, the dark undercurrent that had fueled his extravagant lifestyle. Not yet. He needed to build their trust, let them see the broken man he had become. He shifted his narrative to Aya, his voice softening with a palpable tenderness. He spoke of her beauty, her laughter, the dreams they had once shared. The youthful faces watching him mirrored his pain as he described her sudden illness, the frantic rush to the best hospitals, and the chilling realization that their wealth, for all its power, could not save her. That was the first crack in the illusion, Charles said, his gaze fixed on a point beyond the camera. The first time I understood that some things are beyond money. That, some losses leave a hole that no amount of gold can fill. The journey to Benin followed, recounted in hushed tones that sent a shiver down the spines of his audience. He spoke of the desperation that had driven him, the promises whispered in the shadows, the ancient rituals performed under a cloak of secrecy. He didn't glorify it, didn't try to paint himself as a victim. He simply laid bare the choices he had made, the pact he had unknowingly entered. We were told it was a blessing, he said, his voice thick with irony. That the spirits would favor us. But blessings come with a price, a balance. And we were too blind, too greedy to see what that price truly was. He ended the live session abruptly, his face drawn and weary. The comments continued to pour in, questions, judgments, expressions of sympathy. But Charles simply placed his phone on the small table beside his bed and stared out the window at the distant city lights, a mirror of the life he had lost. He had taken the first step, a hesitant dipping of his toe into the murky waters of his past. The journey to healing, to understanding the true cost of his Sakawa, was only just beginning. And somewhere in the digital ether, a group of youth carried his story, a cautionary tale whispered in the glow of their screens.